Have you ever accomplished something incredible and felt the urge to tell absolutely no one? Maybe you got promoted, launched a successful project, or finally achieved a goal you've been working toward for years, but instead of celebrating publicly, you kept it entirely to yourself. If you've experienced this, you're not alone. And if you haven't, you might be wondering, why would anyone hide their success? There's something fascinating happening beneath the surface when someone chooses silence over celebration. It's not about modesty in the traditional sense, and it's definitely not about shame. The psychology behind keeping achievements secret reveals profound insights about human nature, self-perception, and the complex relationship we have with validation. So what's really going on in the minds of people who achieve great things but choose to keep them hidden from the world? Let's start with something that might surprise you. Some of the most successful people throughout history have been notoriously private about their accomplishments. They didn't post about their wins on social media, they didn't brag at parties, and sometimes they didn't even tell their closest friends. But here's the question that should make you pause. Were they successful because they kept quiet, or did they keep quiet because of how they understood success? The answer is more complicated than you might think, and it starts with understanding what psychologists call the premature gratification effect. When you announce a goal or achievement, something interesting happens in your brain. You get an immediate dopamine hit, a rush of satisfaction from the validation and recognition. Your brain essentially receives a reward before you've fully internalized the accomplishment. Sounds good, right? Not exactly. Here's where it gets fascinating. That premature reward can actually diminish your motivation to continue or to push even further. Your brain has already received its prize, so why keep working? This is why some people instinctively keep their achievements secret during the process, and sometimes even after completion. They understand, consciously or unconsciously, that external validation can be a double-edged sword. It feels good in the moment, but it can rob you of the deeper, more sustainable satisfaction that comes from internal validation. Think about the last time you accomplished something difficult. Did you immediately want to share it, or did you want to sit with it for a while? That impulse to sit with your achievement, to let it marinate in your consciousness before exposing it to external judgment, is actually a sign of psychological sophistication. It shows an ability to separate your sense of worth from other people's reactions. But there's another layer here that's equally important. People who keep their achievements secret often have a different relationship with identity itself. They don't need their accomplishments to define who they are in the eyes of others. Their self-concept is internally generated rather than externally validated. This is rare in our current culture, where personal branding and public sharing have become almost mandatory for anyone seeking success. So ask yourself, do you know who you are without other people confirming it? Consider the protective instinct that comes with keeping achievements private. When you share something you're proud of, you're opening yourself up to a range of responses. Sure, you might get congratulations and support, but you might also encounter envy, dismissiveness, or what's known as tall poppy syndrome, where people try to cut down those who rise above the rest. Some individuals have learned through experience that sharing good news invites unnecessary complications. They've discovered that privacy preserves peace. There's also a fascinating phenomenon called the evil eye that exists across multiple cultures. It's the belief that broadcasting your success can attract negative energy or bad luck. While this might sound superstitious, there's a psychological truth underneath it. When you announce your achievements, you do change the dynamic of your relationships. Some people will genuinely celebrate with you, but others might unconsciously begin to view you differently, with resentment or competitive feelings they didn't have before. People who keep achievements secret might simply be protecting their relationships from this unnecessary strain. Now, let's talk about something that might challenge your assumptions. Is keeping achievements secret a form of confidence or insecurity? Most people would assume it's insecurity, that someone who doesn't share their wins must be shy or lacking self-esteem. But what if the opposite is true? What if it takes more confidence to not need external validation than it does to seek it? True confidence is often quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself because it's not dependent on other people's recognition. When you know your worth internally, when you've achieved something and can feel satisfied without broadcasting it, that's actually a sign of remarkable psychological strength. It means you've developed what psychologists call an internal locus of control, where your sense of achievement comes from within rather than from external sources. But here's where we need to be honest about the complexity. Not everyone who keeps achievements secret is operating from this place of quiet confidence. Some people stay silent because they genuinely fear judgment. They worry that if they share their success, people will scrutinize them more carefully and potentially discover their perceived inadequacies. This is related to imposter syndrome, where even genuine achievements feel undeserved or fraudulent. For these individuals, keeping quiet is a protective mechanism against the anxiety of being found out. So how do you know which category you fall into? Here's a good test. When you achieve something and don't share it, do you feel peaceful or anxious? If you feel peaceful, satisfied, and content with your private knowledge of your accomplishment, you're likely operating from a place of internal validation. If you feel anxious, worried about whether you should have shared it, or concerned about missing out on recognition, you might be avoiding vulnerability rather than transcending the need for validation. There's another fascinating reason some people keep achievements secret, and it relates to the concept of beginner's mind in Zen philosophy. When you accomplish something significant but keep it private, you maintain the humility and openness that allowed you to achieve it in the first place. The moment you start identifying as someone who has achieved X, you can become attached to that identity. You might start protecting it, defending it, or worse, resting on it. By keeping achievements private, some people are essentially refusing to let their past accomplishments define their present identity. Consider also the freedom that comes with privacy. When nobody knows about your achievements, you're free to fail without public shame. You're free to experiment, to try new things, to potentially fall short without everyone watching and judging. This freedom can actually be incredibly liberating and can lead to more authentic risk-taking. People who publicly announce every achievement often feel trapped by the persona they've created. They have to keep winning, keep achieving, keep proving themselves. But what if you could just be without constantly performing your success for an audience? Let's examine the social dynamics at play here. We live in an era of unprecedented self-promotion. Social media has created an environment where sharing achievements isn't just common, it's expected. Your silence about your accomplishments can actually be interpreted as strange or even suspicious. Why isn't she posting about her promotion? Why didn't he announce his award? This cultural pressure to perform your life publicly makes those who remain private seem almost countercultural. But here's what's interesting about this counterculture of privacy. It might actually be healthier. Studies have shown that people who constantly seek external validation through social media and public sharing report higher levels of anxiety and depression. They become dependent on likes, comments, and reactions to feel good about themselves. Their self-esteem becomes fragile, constantly fluctuating based on how others respond to them. In contrast, people who maintain privacy around their achievements often report more stable self-esteem and greater overall life satisfaction. There's also the question of energy preservation. Sharing achievements requires emotional labor. You have to manage other people's reactions, respond to their questions, navigate their envy or their excessive praise. All of this takes energy that could be spent on the next challenge, the next goal, the next achievement. Some people intuitively understand that broadcasting success is actually a drain on the resources they need to continue succeeding. Think about the concept of strategic invisibility. Some highly successful people deliberately keep a low profile because they understand that attention brings scrutiny, criticism, and unwanted demands on their time and energy. They're not hiding from shame. They're protecting their ability to operate effectively. They've realized that fame and recognition can actually be obstacles to continued achievement. When everyone knows what you've done, they have opinions about what you should do next. But when you operate in relative obscurity, you maintain complete autonomy over your choices. Now let's address something crucial: the difference between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy implies hiding something out of shame or fear. Privacy is simply choosing who you share information with and when. People who keep achievements private aren't necessarily secretive in a pathological sense. They've simply decided that their accomplishments are personal and don't need to be public knowledge. This distinction matters because it shifts the narrative from what are they hiding to what are they protecting. Consider the timing element as well. Some people don't keep achievements permanently secret. They just wait. They sit with their accomplishments privately until the initial emotional charge has settled. Then maybe weeks or months later, they might mention it casually in conversation. This delayed sharing serves a purpose. It prevents them from seeking immediate validation while allowing them to share eventually if and when it feels authentic rather than performative. There's also a beautiful concept in Japanese culture called hana yori dango, which roughly translates to preferring substance over show. It's the idea that real achievement speaks for itself and doesn't need announcement. A truly excellent chef doesn't need to tell everyone they're excellent. People will discover it through the food. A genuinely kind person doesn't need to broadcast their kindness. It will be evident in their actions. People who keep achievement secret might be operating from this philosophy, believing that quality and substance will reveal themselves naturally over time without requiring marketing or self-promotion. But let's also acknowledge the potential downsides of keeping achievements too private. In professional contexts, there's something called visibility bias, where people who are better at self-promotion often get recognized and rewarded more than those who quietly do excellent work. If you never share your achievements, you might be passed over for opportunities simply because decision makers don't know what you're capable of. This is a real tension that people who prefer privacy have to navigate. How do you balance authentic humility with strategic career management? Here's another question worth considering. Does keeping achievements secret affect your ability to inspire others? When you accomplish something difficult and share your journey, you might motivate someone else who's facing similar challenges. Your story could be the encouragement someone needs to keep going. By keeping your achievements private, you might be inadvertently depriving others of valuable inspiration and guidance. This is the paradox of private achievement. It protects you, but potentially limits your positive impact on others. So, what's the healthiest approach? Like most things in psychology, the answer is probably balance and self-awareness. The goal isn't to always share everything or to always keep everything private. The goal is to understand your motivations. Are you sharing achievements because you genuinely want to celebrate with people you care about, or are you seeking validation to fill an internal void? Are you keeping achievements private because you have healthy internal self-esteem, or are you avoiding vulnerability out of fear? The people who navigate this best are those who can honestly assess their relationship with achievement, validation, and identity. They share when sharing serves a genuine purpose, whether that's celebrating with loved ones, inspiring others, or advancing their professional goals. They keep private what feels personal and what they want to protect from external judgment. Most importantly, they don't derive their entire sense of self-worth from either the sharing or the keeping secret. Their identity is rooted in something deeper than their achievements altogether. As we close, consider this final thought. Your achievements are yours first and foremost. They happen, they're real, and they matter regardless of who knows about them. The question isn't whether you should share or keep them secret. The question is whether you can feel genuinely satisfied with your accomplishments independent of other people's reactions? Can you achieve something remarkable and feel complete, whether you tell everyone or tell no one? That's the real measure of psychological health when it comes to achievement. The external choice of sharing or not sharing is secondary to the internal reality of knowing your worth doesn't depend on recognition. So the next time you accomplish something significant, pause before you post, before you announce, before you share. Sit with it, feel it, know it, and then decide consciously, not impulsively, whether sharing serves you and others or whether keeping it private honors something deeper in yourself. That conscious choice, made from awareness rather than compulsion, is where true freedom lives.